Hi. Yesterday I wasn't able to do a diary entry because I was out on a photo shoot. So today I'm going to show you one or two pictures from the shoot. It was a little bit of a trying day because we had lots of wind and also rain, and we were in an exposed location. So that was fun. We've got a few photographs that will end up on the website and also in some of our advertising, so keep an eye open for that. And also I'll show you a bit about a hat restoration that I'm going through at the moment. Hi. Some of you will know that I was out on a photo shoot yesterday. Well, what a day to pick. I checked the weather and it had said it was going to be cold but clear and 5% chance of rain. Well, we had 95% of the time was blowing a gale, and probably 75% of the time we had a very fine rain. But anyway, we went out to Salisbury and at some ancient monument sites, and we took some photographs. So I'll share some of those with you in the coming pages of the diary update today. So here I am with my photographer. We are out in Old Sarum, which is near Salisbury in Wiltshire, part of the UK, and we were on it was an ancient site, if you like, of an old castle, and the story goes that somebody actually stood on the mounds there at Old Sarum, fired a bow and arrow, and where the arrow actually went into the ground was where they built Salisbury Cathedral. Well, we stood up there, and I have to say it's a heck of a long way from that mound to that cathedral. So if somebody actually did fire an arrow that far, fair play to them. Anyway, this is a few of the images that we took yesterday. So for the shoot, I took a couple of, I think 3 or 4 of the more popular shaped fedoras that I sell, plus the open road. I'm featuring more and more of the cattleman crease open road style hats on my website and up for sale, as I really love the design myself, but also it's becoming more and more popular with people in the UK. So here's a few more for you to enjoy. In addition to that, I've been contemplating doing more on my pink open road hat, which I mentioned earlier on. You can see it in the background there. I'm going to put together the sweatband for it tonight. So I've got this, what's going to be a pink coloured open road style cattleman crease hat. The crown is obviously formed, as is the brim, and they've got a nice break there. Now I've got to put the leather sweatband into the hat itself. So before I do that, I'll just run through what we need. We've got a sweatband itself, which has got a reed inside of it. So right up the very end here, it's got a reed that goes all the way through to give it some stability. You need a tape measure, soft one. You need a connector, which I don't know whether you can see this or not. There we are. There's the connector there. And a pair of pliers to actually connect up the 2 ends of the sweatband. So I'm going to measure it out now. And I'm so sorry about the lighting in here. It's dark. It's a very small room. I'm hoping to move house in a few months, which will give me a much bigger studio to work in. But for the time being, I've got to make do what I've got. So apologies. But I'm going to measure 56 centimeters out now on this band, because that's the size of the hat. Now I normally measure just over 56, and it will become obvious why in just a minute, because there we are, straight. Now, very, very good investment when you're making hats or any crafting is in your tools, and these are a very good pair of sharp dressmaker tailoring scissors, and they're absolutely brilliant, been a lifesaver for me. So let's just remeasure what I've cut, and you can probably see that these sweatbands are on a bit of a curve, so they're not the easiest things to measure or cut. So that's 56.5. Then what I do is I pop it into the hat just to see whether we've got much more to cut off, or I just need to cut off a little bit more of that, I think. So there's two approaches really. One is that you can actually stretch the hat a bit more, and the other is you can cut this band a bit more. So what I'm going to do actually on this one is a bit of a combination on both. So I'm going to cut this down to 56 centimeters so that I can be strict to the size. So if a customer has actually got a 56 head, then it will fit them. So let's go back onto this. So measure twice, cut once, all that sort of stuff is well worth measuring and remembering rather when we're doing things such as this. So there we are. So that is now cut, and what we're then going to do is we're going to pop this little connector into the end of the unit here. This is when you really regret having to wear glasses and being of my age, but anyway, that should be where we need to be. Let me use these to actually shut down the connector, and that's now on there. And we get the other end, so this end, and we push this into that end. I'm gonna have to come off camera and do this. First of all, I'd like to really apologise for the light in the last bit of filming that you saw. It was in the background there, aimed correctly, but then it slipped, and of course I didn't notice it whilst I was filming. So the choice I had was either discard the filming and don't include it in my diary update, or just go ahead and include it in the diary update. And you know what? Things sometimes go wrong when you're doing stuff like this, so I just thought leave it in. Anyway, these are a couple of pictures of where I've got with the hat band. So I've sewn up the two ends. I've put the bow in there. I've put some support tape on the back, and then I've started to baste stitch around the sweatband so that it's held in place while I take it to the sewing machine and actually sew it in permanently. So that's the job for later on this evening. But as you can see, I'm partway through. So today I've actually got a hat to restore, and doesn't need too much restoration. But this is an interesting one. It's a hat that was made in South America, Argentina, I believe. It's made by a company called Borsalino. I never think I say that correctly, but it's similar to that. It's a long-standing company. I've been actually in production making hats since 1891, which is pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned. And it's made of a thing called Nutria. So Nutria is spelled N-U-T-R-I-A if you want to look it up on Google. But it's actually a rodent that is similar to the beaver, but it's a lot less expensive. But it's a really good felt in terms of its water repellent. So it's great for hats. It's a very soft felt, not quite as soft as beaver. Some people prefer this to beaver. I prefer beaver. I must admit I like the beaver felt, but these are fantastic value. So anyway, this one has been used but not abused, as they say. So it says it's a 57 or a 7 1/8. So let's have a look first of all. I always like to see whether my hats that I've bought have actually shrunk, so I use the measuring tool here. What did we say, 7 1/8, didn't we? And this is measuring up, oh gosh, it's coming up to just under 7. You can see that there, but just under 7. So this is shrunk. So what I'm going to do is clean it and then probably stretch it so that we can try and get it back to the size that it was. The actual grosgrain on it looks in quite good condition. The leather sweatband, it's a bit of a different type of leather to the sort of leather that we tend to use in the UK. It's very soft, but it's quite a heavy grain on it. But anyway, I'm sure it will clean up very well. So what I'm going to do first of all is get a hat block that's a smaller size than the hat, and then pop it on there so that you can see that. But I've actually pulled it over more or less so that you have to remember there's a liner in there, and the liner will actually break if you push it down too hard. So this is just something so I can actually push against it. Then I take some tape. Now in this case, this is some of that, I guess you could call it gorilla tape. It's quite heavy duty tapes, but I'll take a
a nice chunk of it. And what we're going to do here is take off the lint and stuff that's actually on the hat. So I tend to wrap it around to make it into a mitten, so that I can then start tapping over the hat. Can you see that all right? Yeah, you can see that. So there we are. We're just tapping over the hat, lifting off a lot of... Now it's going to be difficult to see the dirt coming off on this because, of course, the dirt is a very light grey, as is this sticky tape. But what I can say to you is I can see the dirt coming off onto this tape already, and in fact it's taking the sticky out of the tape, and therefore you know that it's actually lifting off quite a bit of the rubbish that's on the hat here. So it doesn't take a long time to do this, it just takes a bit of patience, that's all. So I'm going to do another piece. There we are. Oops. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Oh, mind you don't get it caught up in what you're wearing. Right, there we are. And we're just going to take it out again. Now, with all this dirt and dust in the hat, it's going to affect the stiffness and the structure of the felt. So what we're going to do is we're going to give the hat a little bit of a brush in a moment. So let's take that off the stand there. I'm just going to go around the inside here with the tape, and there's not a great deal on here, but I will go around with that, and then put it back on the stand. To take a brush, I'm going to use the stiff side of this two-sided brush just to give it a brush going around. I'm going to go around anti-clockwise, so I'm actually taking the pile round in the correct direction. But if the dirt was quite stubborn, then what I'd be doing is just lifting it a bit, going around anti-clockwise, and you can see such a difference. I don't know whether I can hold that up, whether you can see the difference, how the pile is now, it's standing up rather than laying down, because I've gone round the opposite way to the way that you should do when you're brushing a hat, which is of course anti-clockwise. So this is now opening up the pile, and what I'll then do is get the steam on it. There we go. So now I've got the steamer going. Let's see if we've got enough. Yay, there we go. That's a hat maker's favourite tool, is this steam. There we are. And what you can see is that the felt changing colour. It's like soaking up the moisture and opening up the felt. So there we go. So I've dampened down this cloth to be able to go over the felt and just give it a bit of a lift. Now there's no detergent on here or cleaner, it's just water, and all I'm doing is just easing off any dust or dirt. Now because it's water, I mean, the hat will dry out naturally, and quite frankly it doesn't take very long for a hat to dry out if it's just got a small amount of water like we're introducing here. So and actually if I introduce some steam in a moment to shape it, it will come off very quickly. So there we go. Now that's taken off a lot of the dirt, and let's see if we can now I'm going to brush it around anti-clockwise, and that will flatten the pile down and make it look so much better. Yeah, you can see it already that the difference it's making is it's phenomenal, to be honest with you. It's phenomenal, and it's really coming up to a lovely, it's a sort of a petrol blue colour, you know, it's a sort of grey blue colour, which is really very nice indeed. So that's all you do, you're just taking it round like that. There you go. I pay attention to where the creases at the front, because a lot of people do actually use their fingers to actually take off their hats, which they shouldn't do, of course. Now that was interesting. I just lifted it off the hat there, off the stand there, and it just naturally went into that shape. Look at that. That's going to look good, isn't it? Let's put a bit of steam on and see what happens. So introducing the steam will reignite the sort of shape of the hat. This is great, isn't it? And it just, oh yeah, look at that. So normally we put it down, as you've seen me do before, and use our thumbs and put the crease in the hat. But this has already got the crease in the hat. So, and it's got dimples. So the dimples are going back in, the crease is going back in, and look at that. The actual shape of the brim's also gone back in. So we didn't use much steam then, did we? So that's the sort of thing you could do at home. So look at that. I mean, compared to what we started with 5 minutes ago, that's looking absolutely lovely. So I'm going to do a bit more work on that, but it won't be long before that'll be up for sale on my website. I'm probably going to stretch it out a little bit so that it does come back to a slightly bigger size than it is now and nearer the original size, and give the sweatband a clean with some leather cleaner. But that just gives you an idea of just how straightforward it can be, not is, to reshape a beautiful hat like this.
Okay, so how you can see, it's been a busy day today. So thanks very much for having a look at the video, and I will be back very soon. Have a good evening.